Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to give people a minute or two to join, and then we'll kick off the presentation. But for those of you who have already hopped on and joined us, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in to some important updates on the E-Rate 2026 funding year. Lots of great information coming your way shortly. So just going to wait a couple more seconds to give people a chance to join, and then we'll kick it off. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day. All right. All right, let's get started. So for those of you who just joined us, thank you so much for attending this webinar. We'll be going through some updates to the E-Rate 2026 funding year and talk about what you look for in Form 470 compliance. Before I hand it over to Michael and Jim, our excellent presenters here today, I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items here on Zoom before we kick it off with the presentation. So if we can go over to the next slide. First of all, this webinar is being recorded, so if you guys have to hop off for any reason or if you'd like to revisit the content later, keep an eye on your inbox and we'll be sure to send that to you later today or first thing tomorrow morning. Additionally, Michael and Jim are great resources, so if you guys have any questions, need any additional information, please feel free to pop those questions into the Q&A feature, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A with a little question mark in it, and we'll do our best to get those questions answered. If we can't get those answered, we'll be sure to connect you with the right individual. And finally, I just wanted to mention that there will be a survey being launched after the webinar. We appreciate any and all feedback on that. And with that, I'll hand it over to today's presenters, Jim and Michael. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, Kate. Hi, I'm Jim Kerr. I'm principal at KB and Associates LLC. We are service provider and manufacturer consultants supporting Barracuda and their partners in successfully engaging in E-rate processes.
Hi,
Michael?
and I'm Michael Townsend. I'm the America SLED segment leader for Barracuda. So any contracts, business strategies for Barracuda for the SLED segment, that is me. So if you have any of those that you need help with, since you're our partners, we appreciate you get in touch with me and love to chat with you. All right, Jim, let's kick this off.
Sounds good. So what we're going to talk about today is really appropriate for what's happening within the E-rate cycle. We're seeing Form 470s. The vast majority of them don't really kick in until December 1, November 15th, December 1, which is just around the corner. So we wanted to give you some tools to look at these Form 470s. We're going to focus on what's available in our software as a service, E-rate ProfitWorks. If you're culling them out of the open data database on a day-to-day basis and trying to figure out which ones apply, if you've got good processes in place to do that, more power to you, but we offer some tools that can really cut down your time and energy. That being said, what we're going to look at two different opportunities. One is if you hit a Form 470 that actually is requesting Barracuda, hallelujah, that's the holy grail. That's what you're looking for, and super easy. And then we're going to look at Form 470s with specifications for a competitive product and how to deal with that. So here's our interpretation of a Form 470. This is our summary screen of a Form 470. Some key things to look at. One is obviously the application number. And if you click on that little arrow in the application, 470 application number, it'll take you directly to the physical application itself, which is a government form that's much more difficult to read. We try and be as succinct as possible in this and give you just the basic information that you need to make a go, no-go decision on these things. So allowable contract date, this one is an old one, but we give you the current allowable contract date, and then the technical contact. And that's important because what you don't want to do, unless there's no technical contact and no consultant contact, you want to be reaching out to that individual. Click on the link, and in the Form 470 questions, you should be asking technical questions. So then we get into the description. This is the information. So technical questions and or E-rate questions must be emailed to Jerry Steinberg, is one comment. Proposals are due by Friday, January 17th. Notice that that is different than the allowable contract date. So the RFP allows for a longer turnaround time than the actual Form 470 28-day window does. Those are important distinctions. And notice they're requesting for two different things: basic maintenance of internal connections and internal connections. Usually that means they're looking to buy something and then they want to make sure that the support is built in after the fact, so they're covering both of their bases on basic maintenance and internal connections. I might take a brief excerpt out of this to let you know that we just saw the eligible services list last or 2 weeks ago. And in the eligible services list proposed by the FCC, it looks like they cleaned up a problem that we've been seeing for a number of years, and that is with basic maintenance of internal connections versus managed internal broadband services. The manufacturer support SKUs, where the manufacturer breaks out ongoing support after the warranty expiration, as an example, um, that that has been a thorn in everybody's side, because if it was in internal connections and you went through all the way through the application review process and got a funding commitment decision letter, then you go to invoice for it and you don't get paid on it. And now it's a problem. And trying to go back and fix that is almost impossible. The customer ends up having to pay out of pocket, et cetera, for that support. They're saying now that they're going to include that under internal connections. So support SKUs from the manufacturer that are the pure support SKUs that have been that way for a number of years. And I can think of a number of manufacturers that have support broken out, ongoing bug fixes, patches, telephone and online support as an example. That SKU is now eligible to be paid out at one time for a multi-year support SKU under internal connections. It hasn't been ratified yet, but we expect that to happen pretty darn quickly. That being said, so looking at the basics of these things, this is the RFP document. Click on that link. It'll take you to the physical RFP. And then the last thing you want to be looking at is, do they have Category 2 budget to spend? The Category 2 budget refreshed this year, so they have a full 100% of their Category 2 budget. In this instance, if they have 1,000 students, they'd have a $200,000 war chest to go out and play in the E-rate Category 2. And then we give you another one. Notice who they've been doing business with in the past. So it looks like under internal connections, they've been using AMCO HBS Holdings LLP as their internal connections provider. So let's say that you got this particular one that landed on your desk, and now what do? I want to bid it, but I've got an alternative product. So first thing, review the RFP documents if available. Make sure you're dealing with a technical contact and the bid submittal rules and any questions and answer type rules within the RFP if there is one. If it's no RFP, Form 470, look for rules and guidance on submitting questions within that description narrative that we had. And make sure you're sending the questions of equivalency to the correct person, which would typically be the technical contact. But if there's no technical contact, that would be the primary contact. So then review the actual Form 470, and then look for the section state and local procurement laws under there. And if this is not shown in the EPW summary and should be reviewed prior to asking any questions or submitting equivalency. Then what you're going to do is submit that equivalent question, only the equivalent question. Hi, I have this product. This is what you requested. We are asking if you will view this as an equivalent product. Nothing more, nothing less than that. Here's the cut sheet on the product that you're requesting. Here's the cut sheet on the product that I'm submitting as equivalent. We feel that it's superior in every respect, or something to that effect. Full stop. Not we are the best thing since sliced bread. Our company has the most E-rate clients possible in your area. Please review our references for such and such. No sales jargon whatsoever. Pure and simple, will you accept this as equivalent product? That way they can't just throw out your question because it's a sales question and not a technical question. Fulfilling your role, making sure that you document everything throughout this process. All E-rate application submittals, interactions with the end user should be documented and retained for 10 years from date of installation. Make sure that you know the process, including product eligibility. Note that firewalls typically are not 100% eligible. So you'd be reaching out to the manufacturer, in this case Barracuda, and saying, hey, what is the percentage of eligibility? We publish that We help them with that, so that should be pretty readily available to y'all. As far as when you bid this thing, make sure that you're taking the eligible portion and the ineligible portion and notifying the end user of that as you bid these things. And then making sure you know the process, product eligibility one, support warranty terms, the contract terms and conditions, and invoicing at the end for SPY versus bear as far as a process. Make sure that you follow the RFP rules. Breaking RFP rules is the first and fastest way to get yourself thrown out of the deal. So service provider don'ts. You should not prepare or draft an RFP that they turn around and use in one of these applications. That is a big no-no. That's a competitive bidding violation. You're supposed to remain what's called competitively neutral at all times. That doesn't mean you can't do your job as a salesperson. It changes once they issue the Form 470. So that's why we're suggesting be ahead of the Form 470. Don't be responding to Form 470s blindly. If you have interaction with the end user and you're pretty confident in your relationship, then absolutely bid this thing with an alternative product. But if you don't have that relationship and you're just shooting in the dark, I would say that that's success rate on that is slim and none. But remaining competitively neutral means that during the sales process, pre-Form 470, you're allowed to describe why your features and benefits and your service from your company and your company itself as a solid player are all better than your competitors, and point those out. Come out with a top 10 reasons why. Hopefully, maybe they include that top 10 reasons in their evaluation matrix. Again, relationship is everything, and laying the groundwork for a win early before that ever hits the Form 470 process is imperative to E-rate success. You're not allowed to interfere with an applicant's affirmative duty to conduct a fair, open, and competitive bidding process, meaning you can't threaten them loss of their firstborn son if they don't do business with you, slash their tires, whatever that is. Again, extreme, but be very careful in the process and don't give anything away that's free for ineligible services. Hey, we have this new promotion, and for every one of these that you buy, you get one of these free. That's a bad idea, especially if that free thing is like a VR headset or meta glasses or whatever that might be. And then making sure that you don't do this, send solicitation messages, suggesting they alter the service provider with a post-commitment change, i.e., you don't try and do a spin change. That's a bad idea as well. Gift rules. You're not allowed to do any transaction with an end user that has any engagement with the E-rate process. There's a business officer, an IT person in their IT department. It could be a teacher who's a tech teacher at a school. Just be very careful that you're not allowed to give them anything in excess of $20 in value. This includes meals. If you and your sales engineer go out to lunch and you meet with a customer and you buy them a $50 lunch and put a $10 tip down, you're safe. It's $20 each. But if you go to $60 for the lunch and you put a $10 tip down, you just violated federal law, and it's a federal offense. You're not, and that goes for $50 in any single year. So you go do it again for $20 each. Now you're at $40. And if your company can only give that person $10 more in value and before exceeding the limits. Marketing and promotions, a pen, a t-shirt, a cup, a mug, or whatever. If you're on site and doing, a lunch and learn with them and you give sandwiches away as part of the lunch and learn, you're probably going to be safe. But if you start going with filet mignon type stuff for a lunch and learn, you're going to be in trouble. Demos and proof of concepts. This is kind of squishy is the best way I can describe it. They have never come out with a specific rule. We've seen training where they said it's not available or not eligible to have a demo on site for 15 days or greater during the Form 470 28-day or RFP window. They've never codified that. They've never made it a hard and fast rule. I would just be very careful with demos. If it's there during the Form 470 process, try and get it back and make sure that it's not going to be construed as a competitive bidding violation. If it's on site for 6 months and suddenly that becomes a gift and a gift rule violation, don't do it. So again, just be very careful of your demos and proof of concepts. Make sure you track the delivery on their site, and make sure you track the day you get it back, because that's imperative as far as any potential violations may go. Competitive bidding. Let's talk about that some more. So competitive bidding is the formal process that E-rate Form 470 triggers. And they're supposed to, in their Form 470, give enough description. I want to buy 20 of these and 50 of those. I want to buy 10 Barracuda XYZs for each of my 10 sites in my district, as an example. They're supposed to review that applicant's documentation and bid on the services as they're described. Applicants are supposed to select the most cost-effective bid using price of the eligible products and services as the most heavily weighted or primary factor in the evaluation. So that's beauty is in the eye of the beholders at that point. The applicant can say 10% of my decision is price, and then I have these other 10 criteria that are 9 points or less. That is a valid evaluation matrix where cost is the most heavily weighted factor. I, as a consultant, when I worked as a consultant doing this for my end users, had several that said, listen, I want everything in the RFP, and we're talking about an AIA infrastructure, cabling and switching and wireless LAN infrastructure RFP that met American Institute of Architects standards, which is a 400-page RFP. They wanted every major section of that RFP scored. It was over 120 different items, 5 points for price, and then 120 with 1 point each. Literally, that was their evaluation matrix. Price had no major factor in the decision. It was who did the best job in responding to the RFP. That's few and far between. Most of these things maybe have 5 lines in them. Relationship is typically a big part of this. So make sure that you're bidding these things when you do it as best practice, putting your best foot forward, and particularly if you know what the evaluation matrix is. Many RFPs have that evaluation matrix in it. If it's 50% price and 20% relationship, and you have no relationship, then your price tag is going to have to be pretty low. Again, must be fair, open, and competitive means that all information shared with one bidder must be shared with all. So if you're the incumbent vendor with that particular service or particular applicant, and you have inside information about the bidding process, I'll give egregious examples. It's a cable contract, and you happen to know there's some collapsed conduit and in a particular location, but you take that into account and you're still lower than your competitors for some reason, or you're going to kind of, it's there, but you're not telling anybody else. That's a competitive bidding violation. If you know that they actually are requesting this, but that's overkill and you can get away with requesting a different version of the same product, but at a lower throughput, as an example, and you know that and your competitors don't, that's a competitive bidding violation. And again, they must evaluate all bidders fairly and equally. Now, that is subjective and objective factors. So those subjective factors can be pretty esoteric. Past relationship with the vendor is one that's fairly common. And then it must be for 28 days. So they issue the Form 470. The 28th day is the open window. The 29th day is considered the allowable contract date when they can actually evaluate and select a bidder. So what you should be doing, you should be reaching out to these end users and having pre-bid discussions with them. Sales presentations, classic, hey, what are your holes? What are your pain points? What does your network need? What can we be doing to engage with you to help you figure out what it is that you need and what you're going to be purchasing through the E-rate process? New product offerings, teach applicants about the new technologies. Hey, this is the latest in cybersecurity capabilities. Make sure that you understand that. We want to help you understand that, and where we maybe can plug some of those vulnerabilities with our product set. Having those discussions before they issue the Form 470 is imperative. And again, you can't create a scenario where they don't share that information with anybody else. But by doing that, you're going to put your best foot forward and hopefully develop the relationship that's the winning solution. So they're not allowed to have a relationship with you that would unfairly influence the outcome of the competition. And then give some service providers inside competitive information, obviously. You're not allowed to have, they're not allowed to have any ownership interest in your company. There are a number of ethical violations potentially by the applicant, particularly with the purchasing director of a school district. Fail to describe the desired products and services with sufficient specificity to enable interested parties to bid. Here's a gotcha for them. If they don't have enough information in the RFP or in the Form 470, they're supposed to issue an RFP. So if you can look at a Form 470 and there's no RFP attached and you can figure out what you should be bidding, great. But if they simply put firewall, no preference on their Form 470 and they have no additional information, you are allowed to ask some technical questions like, what does your internet access throughput look like? Up and down, how many concurrent users or sessions do you need to support? Those kinds of Q&As. What do you currently have? You're allowed to ask those questions. If they don't respond in a timely fashion, in timely enough for you to be able to put a bid together, they're in violation of E-rate competitive bidding rules. So if you don't get a response, I'm going to say, please try not to inundate me, but if you're not getting a response from somebody and it's pretty egregious to what they're doing, send me the documentation. I'd be more than happy to reach out to if they have a consultant. 60% of these do have consultants. I can reach out to the consultant and say, hey, something's going on here, or quietly, or we can report them. And the FCC or USAC will reach out to them and say, hey, you're doing something wrong. You do not want to do that with the end user. Let me do that on your behalf as part of Barracuda's agreement with me. Receive gifts or donations from service providers. Obviously, we talked about the gift rule, and they have to follow state and local procurement laws. Guiding principles on the Form 470 and RFP. Services requested on the RFP and 470 must match each other. They're not allowed to go generic on this. Just, hey, we want a firewall. That's it. Nothing else. No, what specific things do you want it to do? And they're not allowed to go, we want a firewall, we want a bunch of switches, we want a bunch of access points. We also want a bunch of UPSs, and we want a bunch of, whatever, cabling infrastructure, 150,000 feet. And that's it. That's a laundry list. They're not allowed to do that. And they must have, you must have access to the applicant's Form 470 RFP and RFP documents. Again, the process must be fair and open. So the applicant is allowed to list specific make, model, and type of service as long as they say or equivalent in their Form 470 and their RFP. And they actually have to say or equivalent or equal or compatible somewhere in there. The only way they're allowed to say compatible or must be compatible if they're not doing a network refresh. In other words, they need 10 additional APs on a campus, and they already have XYZ service provider or manufacturers APs on their site. Obviously, they're not going to buy somebody else's APs. And then they're allowed to say, you must have certain certifications. They're allowed to say you have to be on certain contract vehicles during the process as well. And if there are any disqualification criteria, that needs to be spelled out in the Form 470 and or the RFP if they have one. We're getting down to the end, I promise. So let's talk about lowest corresponding price. This is a rule in E-rate that says you, as the service provider, are required to provide like product, i.e., same model number year over year for the same low price. In other words, if you bid 100 access points to XYZ school district, and a year and a half later, you're proposing another 100 access points of the same manufacturer and model number to another applicant, the price better be quality price for the price and the same price as you provided earlier. Otherwise, you're in violation of the lowest corresponding price rule. And that's it. You just got to provide the lowest price. So what's similarly situated mean? Geographic locale. So let's say that your footprint is 3 states in the Southeast. Within those 3 states in the Southeast, you go off the reservation and into Colorado from there and bidding it. Well, your price may be a little higher due to shipping constraints or whatever that may be, or servicing, et cetera. Your price is allowed to be different. District size for full-time enrollment can be a different situation as well. And then different bills of materials and quantities. So let's say that you propose 175 to the new customer, and it was 100 before. Well, you may get a better discount from the manufacturer, and therefore you can provide a lower price on the 175. And all this is doing is ensuring that without negotiation, the applicant's getting the best deal possible with federal funds. You're required to offer it. And then, so what you should be doing today? Make sure, if you're not familiar with our software as a service product, we have a thing called the hunting list. It will tell you which school district has how much money and which school district has spent what money for what category of service. In other words, they bought a bunch of Cisco switches. Oh, by the way, they bought them in 2017. And we'll tell you the model number that they bought in 2017 and who they bought them from, and give you contacts all in a single pane of glass. So you can kind of create your own hunting list. I don't want to deal with anything greater than 10,000 students because the politics just get too wacky. And I've got this unique product set that fits that size and down as from a product sizing and a very cost competitive. Then you want to focus on 10,000 and down that have 100% of their budget remaining. You can play those kinds of games with this particular application. So make sure that you have that, or you've talked to your Barracuda rep and they have given it to you. And then make sure you're engaging with the Barracuda team as part of the process. Getting in front of these things and getting ahead of the Form 470 means that you're probably going to be best in line, particularly with a variety of manufacturers as far as any kind of a deal reg. If you wait till the Form 470s issues, most manufacturers say, no, we're not going to deal reg this. It's public information. What value do you bring to the table? And then again, make sure that you're getting educated on E-rate. Again, another shameless plug here on our product. We have a training certification module. It's 13 modules. It's 2.5 hours of content. By the time you get done with it, you're going to be pretty darn well versed in E-rate. If you pass all the quizzes and take the final exam, you get a LinkedIn badge out of it. It's pretty thorough. And I know some folks that can attest it. Thought they knew E-rate and took it, and it took them a few hours. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael and let him speak away. Thanks for your attention.
And thank you, Jim, for all that. I'm now realize after why 30 years later, I'm not a customer anymore. I'm on the dark side, as we say it. So if we could, let's talk about how Barracuda can help you. And let's go to the next slide. Can we go to the next slide, Jim? Yeah, there we go. Just kind of who we are at Barracuda. We're a leading global cybersecurity company. We're worldwide. Just to let you know, we were founded in 2003, so we're over 20 years old. We're a first powered platform, and we're trusted by hundreds and thousands of IT professionals that manage services around the world. Next slide. Can we go next slide, Jim? So let's talk about our mission statement, because this is really important for Barracuda. We want to deliver innovation cybersecurity that's easy to buy, deploy, and use for all of our customers out there. We want to be able to partnership with you to make sure those customers have something that they can get easily, deploy it, and use, and that's not causing any issues and problems out there. Next slide, please. And hit one more time. There we go. Not only do we talk about cybersecurity, we're a full cybersecurity portfolio. When we talk about that, we're not just email security, we are server security, network security, application security, and we do this with our XDR, our SOC in place, and it's built around a whole platform. So we have this one platform that has all of our products that we'll be able to engage from, this get to see all the information in one easy to use location. Next slide. And on top of that, we're able to integrate with a bunch of different types of ecosystems. Go ahead, that's fine. Next slide, please. So how do we fit with the E-rate program? Well, we fit under the category 2 with our firewall services and firewall components. And so let's jump to the next slide. And what does that mean? So what is the products that we have under category 2? That is our CloudGen firewall, which is an 80% discount eligibility, and our Barracuda application protection firewall, which is also 80% discount ability. Next slide, Jim. But we also play in the cybersecurity pilot program. And in that program, our web application firewall is a services. So most of our service programs are available. And the cybersecurity pilot program came out a year ago, and we're in the second year now. And a lot of our products that we have that are SASE based fall under this. Our email protection for email for Microsoft and Google, our XDR, our endpoint security. A lot of those are in a cybersecurity pilot program. We're seeing a lot of traction within inside of those coming towards us for RFPs. Next slide. So what's the next steps that we need to work on as Barracuda and you as our partners? We need to identify the E-rate eligible customers in your territory, help schedule joint discovery calls with Barracuda and our team, and let's share insights on customers' pain points and procurement timelines, and let's coordinate a trial deployment or demo opportunities if we can before they get into this bidding process, as Jim was talking about earlier. Next slide. How can we help you though? We can help assess the environment. We can help identify those gaps, risks, and opportunities in their current setup by getting on the calls with a solutions architect and one of our sales team members. We can help understand the threat of their landscape, map out the vulnerabilities, compliance risks specific to K through 12, and we can collaborate on the right solutions. We can align our Barracuda portfolio within those needs, whether it's in the cybersecurity pilot program, where it's email protection, backup, XDR, security awareness training. So let's try our solutions. Let's customers experience through trials, pilots, and proof of concepts. Again, this is before they do the 470, as Jim was talking about. But anything else we can help after E-rate season, we are all on board to help you as our partners. And let's go to the next slide. So if you need more help, especially with E-rate, you can contact me or Jim or Mia at E-rate Profit Works. Here's our information. We'll be sending out all this information to you, so you will have it. But if you want to take a screenshot of it, please do. But we're here to help you. So let us know what we can do for you. Next slide. And we'd like to invite you to our Dallas Secure. This is a program that Barracuda's put on, so you can learn about how hackers are doing things, connect directly with our product experts, preview innovations and roadmaps that we're having that we're going down the road, gain skills that you can apply immediately to selling points and stuff that can demonstrate how well Barracuda can do in the environments. And again, enjoy and have a fun day with our peers and pros. So this is coming up in Dallas, October the 21st from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There's a QR code. Please scan it, sign up, come join us, and let's have some fun together. Let's go to the next slide. And I think this is questions and answers. Yes. So do we have any questions and answers out there? We can wait around and see what come up. And if you don't, just take our information. And if you want to email us directly or call us, please do. We'll get back with you as soon as possible. Jim, you have anything else?
Just a quick note, my email address had a .com extension and it's a .net extension, just to further confuse things. Sorry. Caught the one edit I didn't catch. Anyway.
Awesome. Thanks. We can make sure to send that out in the follow-up email as well, so you guys have all of those contact details and can follow up with any questions you may have. And I think if that wraps it up, I just wanted to thank you, Michael and Jim, for taking the time to run through this presentation today. Great to hear more about the E-Rate 2026 funding year and learn more about Barracuda. So really appreciate your time there. And of course, thank you all to everyone who attended the webinar here today. It was great to have you join us. And with that, I think we will wrap it up. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye bye.